It started with a phone call, a call that Sarah never expected to get. It was her longtime neighbor, Joyce, asking for help. Not with groceries or a ride, but something more personal and painful. "I didn't want to say anything before," Joyce admitted, her voice trembling, "but I've run through almost all my savings. I thought I had planned enough. I didn't see this coming." Joyce is 74. She was a nurse for over 3 decades. Raised 2 children on her own. Always the one who others leaned on. But here she was, facing a cold financial truth she didn't expect in retirement. And sadly, her story isn't rare. It's the quiet reality so many people face in their later years, especially those who thought they were doing everything right. Retirement is supposed to be a time of freedom, a reward for years of hard work. But what many don't realize is how quickly that freedom can slip away, not from lavish spending or sudden emergencies, but from small, preventable mistakes that quietly drain your savings. If you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, and you've been wondering whether your money will truly last, I want to share something important with you today. Not just financial advice, but real stories, lessons, and warning signs that too many people miss until it's too late. And before we go any further, let me ask you this: have you ever looked at your bank account, your pension, or even the monthly bills and thought, "Am I going to be okay 5 or 10 years from now?" If so, you're not alone. And this conversation is for you. Let's begin with a story that feels familiar to far too many. Imagine Jim and Elaine. Married for 42 years, they retired in their early 70s with what they thought was a solid plan. Jim had a modest pension from his teaching job, and Elaine had savings from her work in administrative roles. They had about $250,000 tucked away, enough, they thought, to live simply but comfortably. But they made one quiet miscalculation. They didn't think about how fast time and spending would add up. The first year of retirement felt like a vacation. Dinners out. Trips to visit their grandkids. A few spontaneous home upgrades. Nothing extravagant, but enough to chip away at their savings steadily. By year 5, they were startled to see how much was gone. Jim confessed to a friend, "I thought we were being careful. We weren't reckless. But we didn't think long term." That brings us to the first retirement mistake that drains savings faster than almost any other: spending too much too early. There's a quiet psychological shift that happens in those first few years of retirement. You go from working hard, sticking to a budget, waiting for the weekend, into full days of freedom. And with that freedom comes a sense of, "I deserve this." And truthfully, you do deserve comfort, joy, and peace. But the trap is in underestimating how long retirement really lasts. The average person who retires at 65 may live into their late 80s or even 90s. That's 20, possibly 30 years without a paycheck. That's a long time to stretch a fixed income, and most people aren't emotionally prepared for it. Spending heavily in the early years can create a false sense of financial security. You don't feel the pain immediately. But it's like turning on a faucet with the drain slowly clogging beneath. At first, everything seems fine. And then suddenly, it isn't. So what can you do if you're in that stage now, or heading there soon? Here's a gentle but important truth: retirement isn't a finish line, it's a phase. One that needs as much planning and pacing as your working years ever did. And the goal isn't to deprive yourself, but to find joy in what's sustainable. A walk in the park, time with loved ones, a simple dinner cooked at home, these bring meaning without draining your wallet. If you're watching this right now and thinking, "Maybe I've been spending too fast," don't panic. This isn't about guilt, it's about adjustment. Look at your spending patterns. Do a check-in with yourself or your financial advisor. It's never too late to slow the leak before it becomes a flood. Now let's gently move into another financial misstep, one that creeps in silently and rarely gets discussed until it's too late. It often starts with good intentions. A child needs help with rent. A grandson wants to go to college. A daughter is struggling after a divorce. And as a parent or grandparent, you feel that deep desire to support them. You've always been the safety net, the strong one. But here's what so many seniors never admit out loud: helping adult children financially, especially on a fixed retirement income, can quietly erode your own future stability. There's a difference between occasional support and long-term dependency. And the line is often blurred by love. Consider Martha, age 72. She lent her son $20,000 to help him start over after a failed business. That was 5 years ago. He still hasn't paid her back. And now, she finds herself cutting her grocery budget and skipping medications just to make ends meet. "I don't regret helping him," she told me. "But I do regret not protecting myself too." It's not about being selfish, it's about self-preservation. If your financial foundation cracks, you won't be able to help anyone later. And believe me, the best gift you can give your family isn't money, it's your independence. There are ways to support loved ones without endangering your retirement. Set boundaries. Offer time, advice, or non-financial help. If you choose to give money, consider it a gift, not a loan. Only give what you can truly afford to lose. And most importantly, don't sacrifice your peace of mind to solve someone else's crisis. Let me ask you this: have you ever found yourself helping others financially, even when you felt unsure about it? What was the outcome? I'd love to hear your story in the comments, because your experience might just help someone else avoid the same mistake. Stay with me, because in a moment we'll explore a mistake that almost no one talks about, one that could quietly cost you tens of thousands over time without you even realizing it. But for now, take a breath. Reflect. This journey through retirement doesn't have to be filled with regret. It can be a time of wisdom, growth, and powerful clarity. You've earned that. And this is just the beginning. Great, let's keep going. There's something subtle that happens once the calendar says retired. For years, we live with structure, paychecks every 2 weeks, routine bills, maybe even a raise once in a while. But after retirement, all of that disappears, and something else takes its place: unpredictability. And one of the most unpredictable forces we face, especially as we age, is the rising cost of healthcare. Which brings us to the next mistake that drains savings more quietly than any shopping habit or generous loan: underestimating medical expenses in retirement. This one is tricky, because it's not something you feel all at once. You might still feel healthy today. You may only need the occasional doctor visit or a refill here and there. But what many retirees don't realize is just how dramatically medical costs can grow, sometimes suddenly, sometimes slowly, and how devastating it can be when they haven't planned for it. I want you to meet Richard. He was a retired mail carrier in his late 70s. Strong, independent, always active. For the longest time, he believed his Medicare plan would cover everything he needed. He even joked once that he was done with hospitals unless they were giving out free coffee. But that changed when he started having hip pain. A simple ache turned into a limp, then into an MRI, and before long, he was looking at surgery. What he hadn't realized was how many extras wouldn't be fully covered: out-of-pocket deductibles, post-surgery rehab, new mobility equipment, even extra transportation to appointments. In less than 6 months, he burned through nearly $18,000 in savings. It wasn't the surgery, he told his daughter. It was all the stuff around it. And Richard's story isn't unusual. According to recent research, the average retired couple today may need over $300,000 just to cover healthcare expenses during retirement. That number is shocking, but it's real. Now, don't let that frighten you. Let it prepare you. If you haven't reviewed your healthcare coverage in a while, take time to understand what's actually included, and what's not. Supplemental insurance, long-term care policies, and health savings accounts, if you have one, can all play an important role in filling those gaps. But even more importantly, taking care of your health today, walking regularly, eating whole foods, sleeping well, can prevent many of the costs that arrive later. If you've ever been surprised by a medical bill in retirement, I want you to know, you're not alone. Let others learn from your experience. Share your story in the comments, because the more we talk about this, the more we protect each other. Now, let's pause for a moment and talk about something that may not seem like a financial mistake on the surface, but ends up draining more than just money. Let me tell you about Linda. Linda is 69, a retired librarian, meticulous with her finances. She tracks every dollar, balances her checkbook by hand, and never splurges on unnecessary purchases. On paper, she's the model retiree. But when inflation started to rise, Linda didn't adjust anything. "I figured if I didn't change my habits," she said, "my money would stretch just like before." But here's what Linda didn't account for: how the price of essentials can shift dramatically over just a few years. Her grocery bill quietly grew by 20%. Utility rates crept up. Her car insurance increased. She wasn't living extravagantly, but she was still losing ground. Slowly, quietly, her savings were being eaten away, not by bad choices, but by a hidden force that affects every retiree: inflation. That brings us to another crucial mistake: ignoring how inflation affects your future purchasing power. If you're in your 60s or 70s now, and you're planning for 20 more years of retirement, you're not just planning for what things cost today, you're planning for what they'll cost in 2045. That might sound far away. But think back 20 years. How much did a gallon of milk cost? Or a haircut? Or even a meal at a local diner? Now project that same change forward, and imagine what your daily expenses might look like just 10 or 15 years from now. This is why it's so important not to anchor your retirement plan to today's prices. If you're withdrawing the same amount each month without adjusting for inflation, or worse, if your savings aren't growing at least a little each year, you may find yourself falling behind without realizing it. So what can you do? One simple shift is to be aware of the types of expenses that rise fastest, like food, energy, healthcare, and build a little flexibility into your budget. Another is to talk with a financial professional about low-risk investments or retirement accounts that help your money grow, even modestly, to keep pace with inflation. Even if you're not playing the stock market, you deserve to have your savings protected. Because the truth is, your money needs to last not just for the life you live now, but for the life you will live in 10 years, 15 years, maybe even longer. Linda eventually made changes. She started meal planning to reduce waste, switched her car insurance, and reviewed her retirement accounts for better growth. And slowly, she turned things around. "I didn't realize how fast things changed," she said. "But I'm watching now. I'm ready. You can be ready too." Let me ask, have you noticed prices rising in ways that caught you off guard? Where did you feel it most? In the grocery store, at the pharmacy, with bills? Leave a comment below. You might be surprised how many others are facing the exact same thing. Before we continue, take a moment. Breathe in. You're doing something powerful just by being here, by choosing to learn, to grow, and to protect the life you've built. That's courage. And it's how we stay strong, together. Coming up, we'll explore 2 final retirement mistakes, one involving a misunderstood financial habit, and the other, the absence of something even more dangerous than debt. But for now, remember, it's not about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions, while there's still time to adjust the course. Sometimes, it's not the dramatic choices that shake the ground beneath us, it's the subtle ones. The ones we make without a second thought. The kind that feel safe, until they're not. That's exactly what happened to Charles. Charles retired at 66 with a modest pension, a paid-off house, and a savings account he was proud of. He wasn't flashy. He didn't take wild financial risks. In fact, he'd always been cautious, some might even say too cautious. And that's where the real trouble began. You see, Charles kept all his retirement money in a basic savings account. It made sense to him. Safe, accessible, no surprises. But over the years, something insidious happened. His money just sat there, doing nothing, while the world around him kept getting more expensive. That brings us to the fifth mistake so many retirees fall into without realizing it: being too conservative with your money. Now let me be clear, this isn't about gambling with your nest egg. It's not about chasing high-risk investments or putting your future on the line. But there is a danger in keeping every dollar locked in low-interest accounts, CDs, or cash under the mattress. Because when your money isn't growing, even just a little, it's actually shrinking. Think of it this way: if inflation is rising at 2 or 3% each year, and your savings are growing at 1% or less, you're losing purchasing power. Quietly. Consistently. And over the course of 10 or 15 years, that can add up to tens of thousands of dollars simply vanishing into thin air. Charles learned this the hard way. By the time he was 75, he started to feel the pinch. Groceries cost more. Utilities ate a bigger slice of his budget. A small emergency, like replacing a broken water heater, felt like a major crisis. His safe strategy wasn't keeping him safe anymore. It was boxing him in. Eventually, with the help of his niece, who worked in finance, Charles shifted a portion of his savings into safer income-generating options: a well-balanced conservative fund, a couple of dividend stocks, even a small annuity that provided steady monthly income. He kept enough cash to feel secure, but finally had a system that helped his money keep pace with life. He said something afterward that stuck with me: "I didn't need to be rich. I just needed my money to keep walking alongside me, not staying frozen in place while I kept getting older." If you're listening to this and thinking, "That sounds like me," you're not alone. Many people who lived through financial ups and downs in earlier decades learned to be careful with every penny. But being careful doesn't have to mean being stuck. There are financial tools today designed specifically for retirees, options that offer both stability and growth, without the roller coaster of risky investments. If you haven't looked into them yet, it may be time to revisit your strategy, not because you've done anything wrong, but because the world has changed, and your money deserves the chance to keep up with you. Let me ask you something: has your money been sitting still for a while? Have you found yourself nervous to take any action, even if you know it might be time for a change? Let me know in the comments. Your insight might help someone else feel brave enough to rethink their own approach. Now, let's talk about something that might be the quietest, yet most dangerous mistake of all. Not a wrong step, but the lack of any step at all. This is something I've seen more often than I can count. People retiring without ever creating a plan. No strategy. No spending roadmap. Just a general hope that it'll all work out. And for a little while, it might. Until one month becomes tight. One emergency comes up. One change throws everything off balance. That's how it was for Carol. Carol had a generous heart. She gave to her church, helped her neighbors, supported her grandkids whenever she could. But she didn't like paperwork. She avoided financial talks. "I don't want to think about that stuff," she would say. So, when she retired, she simply started drawing from her savings, without a clear plan for how much, how often, or for how long. 10 years later, her savings were nearly gone. She wasn't reckless. She just didn't have a system. And that's our sixth major retirement mistake: not having a withdrawal strategy, or any retirement plan at all. You might be surprised how common this is. People plan their vacations down to the hour. They plan weddings, birthdays, even their grocery lists. But when it comes to managing the money that needs to last 20 or 30 years, they wing it. Without a clear plan for how much to withdraw each month, or which accounts to tap into first, retirees can end up withdrawing too much in good years, and having nothing left when unexpected costs arise. Or they end up drawing from tax-deferred accounts too early, triggering bigger tax bills than necessary. Or they leave money sitting idle in one place while paying interest in another. And the worst part? It's all preventable. You don't need to be a financial expert to have a plan. You just need to take a deep breath, sit down with someone you trust, whether that's a family member, a financial advisor, or even a local nonprofit offering free retirement planning, and create a simple, sustainable path forward. That means knowing what your monthly income is, understanding your fixed costs, factoring in future expenses like healthcare or housing, and deciding ahead of time which accounts to draw from and when, so you stay in control, instead of being surprised. Carol eventually did this. It wasn't easy. There were a few tough conversations. But with support, she created a monthly withdrawal plan that protected her from overspending and gave her a renewed sense of confidence. It's not just about money, she said. It's about not feeling afraid anymore. And isn't that the heart of it? So let me ask you directly, do you have a plan for how long your savings need to last? Do you know how much you're safe to spend each month without jeopardizing your future? If not, now is the perfect time to begin. Not because you're behind, but because you're finally ready. Coming up next, we'll close this conversation in a way that ties everything together. I'll share one final reflection, something more important than any account balance or budget line. It's a truth that could reshape how you move forward from this moment on. But before we get there, take a moment to check in with yourself. Which of these stories felt closest to your own? Which mistake do you quietly fear the most? Let me know. Not just for me, but for every other listener who needs to know they're not alone in this. There's a moment, quiet, personal, and often unspoken, that many retirees face somewhere along the road. It's the moment you sit down with your bills, your checkbook, maybe even a calculator in hand. You're not expecting anything dramatic. Just a quick review, a glance at how things are going. But something feels heavy. You look at the numbers, and for the first time, you feel unsure. Not just about the money, but about what it all means. Will this last? It's a question wrapped in fear, vulnerability, and sometimes even shame. But let me tell you something that's worth repeating. Asking that question does not mean you failed. In fact, it means you care. It means you're paying attention. It means you're still in the game, and that, my friend, is powerful. Because you're not powerless. Not at 60. Not at 70. Not at 85. You have wisdom, experience, and choice. And those are the most valuable currencies of all. Let's take a breath and look back. We talked about Jim and Elaine, who spent too much too early in retirement, not out of recklessness, but from that very human desire to finally enjoy life. We met Martha, who gave generously to her adult children, not realizing she was giving away her own security. There was Richard, who never saw the full weight of healthcare costs coming until it was right on his doorstep. And Linda, who thought her careful lifestyle could protect her from inflation, only to find herself quietly slipping behind. Charles taught us that even being too cautious with money can slowly eat away at what we've built. And Carol reminded us that the absence of a plan is sometimes the most dangerous plan of all. These are not failures. These are human moments. Real stories. And chances to begin again with better tools, clearer insight, and stronger resolve. So now the question becomes, what can you do next? Maybe you start with a quiet check-in. Open your notebook. Look honestly at your monthly spending. Is it aligned with what you need, not just today, but years from now? Maybe it's a conversation you've been putting off, with your partner, a trusted friend, or your adult children. You don't have to share every detail, but being open about your financial comfort level can build understanding and even offer support you didn't expect. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to talk to a financial advisor or community nonprofit that helps seniors with retirement planning. Not because you need to make huge changes, but because you deserve a clear, confident path forward. You've worked too hard for uncertainty to be your retirement companion. Now, I'd love to hear from you, truly. Have you faced any of these retirement challenges yourself? Maybe you've overcome one. Or maybe you're still in the middle of it. Either way, your voice matters. Your story could help someone else feel less alone, more understood, and more empowered. Leave a comment below and share your experience, just a line or two. You never know who you might be helping by doing so. And if you found this video valuable, if it helped you reflect or inspired you to make even one small change, I invite you to click the like button. It tells us we're on the right path, and that this content is making a difference. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We release thoughtful, story-driven guidance like this every week, designed to help you navigate aging, finances, health, and life's deeper questions with confidence and care. And don't forget to turn on the bell icon, so you'll never miss what's coming next. This message was shared with care, and your thoughts help shape future conversations. If something felt unclear or could be improved, I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. Now, before we finish, I want to leave you with something deeper than strategy. A truth that lives at the core of all this talk about money, savings, and planning. It's this: you are not defined by your balance sheet. Your worth is not measured by how perfectly you managed your accounts, or how well you predicted inflation, or whether your savings plan had every detail right. You are defined by your wisdom, by the care you've given to others, by the strength it took to make it to this point in life with your dignity intact. You are not behind. You are here. And being here, still learning, still reflecting, still adjusting, that is the very definition of strength. Whatever has happened in the past, whether you made mistakes, had regrets, or faced things out of your control, you still have today. You still have choices. You still have time to secure your future, on your terms. So here's what I want to leave you with: don't let fear make decisions for you. Let clarity guide you. Let courage move you forward. Because retirement isn't just about what you saved. It's about what you build now, day by day, choice by choice. Your story isn't over. It's unfolding. And if this video has helped you even a little bit, then we've done something worthwhile together. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I truly appreciate it. And remember, your voice matters, your story has power, and your future still holds space for peace, joy, and security. Stay well. Stay strong. And until next time, take care of yourself.